Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold talks with UAE leadership on day 2 of his visit. Trade and security top the agenda. Modi to also address Indian diaspora in Dubai later today. Former Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa eyes a political comeback as Prime Minister as the island nation votes in crucial general elections. India lodges strong protest over fresh ceasefire violations in Kashmir. Pakistani High Commissioner Abdul Basit summoned after 6 people killed in shelling along the line of control. And Home Minister of Pakistan's Punjab province, along with 18 others, killed in a suicide attack at his home in Attock. Lashkar-e-Jhangvi claims responsibility. First up in the bulletin this morning, in a major initiative to reach out to the oil-rich Gulf countries, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will try to take the UAE on board on the question of terrorism and investment in India. In the first prime ministerial visit after 34 years, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hopes for a long-term oil supply arrangement with UAE, as well as offering them opportunities for investment in India at a time when the country is looking for a major boost to manufacturing as well as infrastructure.
Day 1 of Prime Minister Modi's visit to the UAE was laced with symbolism. The UAE leadership broke protocol to welcome him at the airport in Abu Dhabi in a rare gesture. This is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the UAE in 34 years. The high point on Sunday was Modi's visit to the Sheikh Zayed Mosque in the capital.
The fact that after such a long gap the Prime Minister is coming adds a lot of significance to this visit. What can be discussed? Well, bilateral issues. We have a lot already happening bilaterally between India and UAE. As you know, UAE and India are one of the largest trading partners of each other. We also have significant Indian investment in UAE. And a very large Indian community, one of the largest outside India. 2.6 million Indians are here.
Later, the Prime Minister interacted with Indian workers at the ICAD residential city in Abu Dhabi about their working conditions. ICAD is a labour camp housing workers from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Nepal.
We look at this visit as providing a very strong fillip to further strengthening the long-standing relations between India and the UAE. We hope that it will register key progress in a number of issues such as trade, investment, security cooperation, energy, as of course the interaction with the Indian diaspora.
Today, Modi is scheduled to visit the zero-carbon Masdar city near Abu Dhabi. He will also hold talks with a UAE-based businessman. UAE is India's third largest trading partner and 6th largest oil exporter and is also a cash-rich country that can invest in India, especially in infrastructure sector. Hopes over the visit are high.
Only Abu Dhabi government $1,500 billion dollars investment outside UAE, and now India very nominal investment in India. So after 35 years, a Prime Minister is coming to this country. So we are hoping that India will get a big investment from United Arab Emirates.
Apart from discussions with the Crown Prince, Modi will also hold talks with the Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, today. The Prime Minister is also expected to discuss energy security and security cooperation as well. Security in the region is part of discussions agenda in the wake of the rise of the Islamic State in the region. Modi will end his visit with a meeting with thousands of Indian expats who he will address at the Dubai Cricket Stadium in Dubai Sports City later today. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me on the phone line this morning to talk about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 2-day visit to the UAE is former diplomat Mr. Vivek Kachchu. Ambassador Karchu, as far as Prime Minister Modi's two-day visit to the UAE is concerned, what do you think really the focus is going to be on day 2 of his visit when he meets his counterparts there in the UAE?
Well, the Prime Minister is visiting the UAE at a time of enormous flux in the entire region. The region actually is facing great turbulence on the security front, on the ideological front, I think also on the theological front. So geopolitically, it is an interesting time, and I do think that apart from purely bilateral issues, which are energy, which is commerce, which is people-to-people interaction, there will also be a focus on the regional situation, and that is of considerable interest to India.
Indeed, you know, the Indian diaspora constitutes a rather large, sizable chunk there in the UAE. What is it that the Indian diaspora is going to expect out of Modi when he speaks to them later on today?
I think the Indian diaspora wants the government in India in a purposeful manner in the area of development. And also the Indian diaspora is concerned about its own issues, both within the UAE and when they return to India, because as you know, in the UAE, no one settles down permanently. Even if they are there for a long time, they eventually come back to India. 99.9% return to India. And they would be interested in hearing the Prime Minister speak on India's development programs as well as issues relating to the diaspora.
You know, after looking east and after going to the Southeast Asian countries, the Prime Minister now is looking west and trying to reach out to those nations as well. Do you see any significant agreements being signed as far as manufacturing and infrastructure is concerned?
Well, Abu Dhabi has a lot of investable funds. I've read one statistic that the Abu Dhabi Investment Agency is something like $800 billion. Clearly, they can't invest these funds within Abu Dhabi or even within the Arab region or the Middle East. And they look for opportunities for investment. India is an emerging market. They follow India very closely. And therefore, there are possibilities that a part of these funds would flow to India. Naturally, they will be looking for stability, and they will also be looking for a good return, as any investor would do.
Indeed. All right, Ambassador Karchu, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for joining us on the phone line then, putting things into perspective for us as far as the Prime Minister's two-day visit to the UAE is concerned.
Thank you.
Moving on now to our next big focus, the general elections in Sri Lanka. The election promises a close battle between Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's UNP and President Maithripala Sirisena's UPFA. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is eyeing a political comeback as Prime Minister months after being toppled as the President. Here's more.
A defining moment for Colombo as Lankans vote on crucial general elections. Nearly 15 million voters are deciding the fate of 6,100 candidates were in the fray. Tight security is in place as fear of violence looms. Nearly 75,000 police officers and security forces have been deployed in all 14 districts of the island nation. 4 people have died in the run-up to the election during campaigning.
Definitely, actually, that when we started that nomination and until now, peaceful country, peaceful election we can conduct in here.
The elections to the 225-seat National Parliament will see a close contest between United National Party and United People's Freedom Alliance headed by the incumbent Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe and President Maithripala Sirisena respectively. But the real challenge to UNP is Sinhala's strongman Mahinda Rajapaksa, who is eyeing a political comeback after being toppled as a president. Sirisena was not in favor of granting Rajapaksa a party ticket, but his party allies have defied his wishes. Eventually, he had to allow Rajapaksa to contest as there was a threat that the party would be split if he was not given a ticket.
been a free and fair election which people have not witnessed for a long time. The younger people have not witnessed it during their lifetime. It's to preserve this freedom and to build a new country that we seek the vote on August 17th.
In tune with Sri Lanka's electoral tradition, no single political party is expected to win a majority this time too. To have a working majority government, 113 seats are needed in the National Assembly. Results are expected later on Tuesday. The crucial parliamentary election will see Lankans decide whether to give former President Mahinda Rajapaksa another shot at power, especially at a time when the United Nations is preparing to release a report into the human rights abuses under his rule. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning to talk about the elections in Sri Lanka is Sanjay Kapoor, editor of The Hard News. Good morning, Sanjay. Thank you for joining me on the program. Very well, thank you. So as far as the elections in Sri Lanka today are concerned, what do you think are going to be the main factors that are going to influence these parliamentary elections?
You know that one major factor which has actually emerged at the time when President Maithripala Sirisena had dissolved the parliament, nobody really expected former president, ex-president Mahinda Rajapaksa to come back in a certain way. He lost the presidential election in January this year, and the new president thought that he would lie low, he would not go to assert himself, and suddenly, he thought that he'll take a shot at the prime minister's job, and that in a way has changed the complexion of this entire election. And Mahinda Rajapaksa actually subsumes many things.
Yes.
First of all, his own persona. He represents Sinhala chauvinism of certain nature. And there is a large mass of people who actually think that he did a great job in finishing off or snuffing out the Tamil militancy and sorting out the issue of secessionism or division of the country, which is a very big issue. So in a certain way, Rajapaksa represents the unity of the country. Even Sirisena does, but he does it more aggressively. Then the other issue is of the Chinese investment. Sirisena won on this major plank in January that he was bartering away national interest. He was bartering away the sovereignty of the country for a few dollars, because there was the issue of Colombo Port City worth $1.4 billion, which was being handed over to the Chinese. And the issue was that he was going far beyond the laws of the land, because nobody has a right, any individual in that country, to give land to a foreign nation.
Indeed.
Where they cannot be even allowed. I mean, one of the things that was written in the agreement was that the Chinese would actually filter out who wants to come into that city or not. So in a certain way, it became a very emotive issue. There were other Chinese investments that also were put on hold once Sirisena came in. And investigation was launched because the buzz was that, huge amount of money passed from the Chinese to Mahinda Rajapaksa and his brood, the number of relatives who were actually working put together in his regime. So all that is, come up again. It is, as many people say, it's an unfinished business or unfinished agenda of January, which is going to play out again. And Rajapaksa thinks that he did a great thing in last 2009 when he finished off LTT, build up the nation's profile, made it more muscular.
Yes.
So he thinks that he deserves to come back.
Indeed.
So that I think is going to figure out. And the flip side to all this is that in the last 8 months, when Sirisena has been in power, there's been a certain amount of citizen empowerment.
Indeed.
You have Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who's supposed to be pro-free market, soft gentleman, who has in a certain way changed the way Sri Lanka conducts itself. There was a bit of a thuggish attitude which was displayed by the earlier regime. And Wickremesinghe has changed everything. Life is far more easier. Media is breathing easy. It was in the early days when Rajapaksa was in power. As an editor, I used to find it very, very difficult to get anybody from Sri Lanka to write about Sri Lanka.
Sure.
They would all pass the buck. No, we don't want to be harassed by us. We don't want to go under 6 feet of the ground. Because there was so much of harassment.
Indeed. But the moot question really is, will Mahinda Rajapaksa make a comeback? Because opinion polls in Sri Lanka suggest that, Ranil Wickremesinghe is far ahead of Mahinda Rajapaksa. But can he pull a rabbit out of the hat and emerge victorious?
I personally feel that Mahinda Rajapaksa can't really come back. If you look at it, the minorities have about 20% of the vote. And there are a whole lot of Sinhala, you can say, the majority community, which also is breathing easy. So if they're not swayed by the total right-wingers which are backing Mahinda Rajapakse, I think by and large a similar situation to what we saw and we saw the the rise of Maithripala Sirisena might opt in once again. And it's a strange contradiction. You have Maithripala Sirisena, who's leading the party of which Mahinda Rajapakse is contesting, but he doesn't want Sirisena to actually he doesn't want Rajapakse to come to power. In fact, he wrote a letter some time back saying that I'm not going to get you in as a prime minister because you've been president twice and this time somebody else got a job.
Yes.
So by the look of it, I think Wickremesinghe is heading an alliance which is opposed to the party that the president heads. But he's on a good wicket. The people respect him. People think that he deserves a chance. And secondly, everybody thinks that, Sri Sena should get a person that he can work with, not somebody that he's fighting with all the time. I mean, he should not be trapped in circumstances like it happened earlier, where, the parliament would not run. And there was so much of factionalism which was brought in by Rajapakse.
Indeed.
That he thinks that, it will be easier to work with Wickremesinghe. And that's how I think it's going to be.
All right, Sanjay, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning and putting things into perspective for us as far as the Sri Lankan elections are concerned. It's time now for a short break, but still to come. Chinese premier visits blast spot at Tianjin. 112 people were killed and hundreds injured in the deadly chemical warehouse explosions. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
New government in New Delhi. New faces.
People are not investing because they are scared of your tax administration.
New thinking.
The auction process is a fair and good process.
You cannot have a one-size-fits-all reform policy.
For insights and perspective.
Judiciary should be more concerned about corruption within itself.
The Modi government slogan of "अच्छे दिन आने वाले हैं." Soon the हमारे पुराने दिन लौटा दो.
The biggest show on economic policy. Watch State of the Economy.
Get live Rajya Sabha session. News, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, the Home Minister of Pakistan's Punjab province was killed in a suicide attack along with 18 others in Attock district on Sunday. Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, a Sunni militant group with ties to the Al-Qaeda, claimed responsibility. There's a report.
A senior minister in Pakistan's Punjab province, known for his tough anti-Taliban stance, was assassinated by two suicide bombers who blew themselves up at his ancestral home in Attock district. Shuja Khanzada, the Home Minister of Punjab province, and a DSP were among the 19 people killed when the suicide bombers attacked his political office at his native Shadi Khan village. At least 17 people were also injured in the blast. The condition of 3 injured persons is stated to be critical.
उस वक्त जिस वक्त ये बम ब्लास्ट हुआ तो मैं यहाँ पर थोड़े से फासले पर अड्डे पर मौजूद था, तो यानी बहुत शदीद सा धमाका था. तो थोड़ी देर बाद फिर मालूमात हुई कि वज़ीर दाखिला पंजाब फ़ख्र कर्नल शुजा खानज़ादा साहब पर बम ब्लास्ट हुआ है.
The suicide bombers entered the building disguised as visitors and blew themselves up. As a result of the blast, the roof of the house caved in, burying the minister and about 30 other people.
पूरा छत लंटर गिर गया इंसानों पर और कोई बिल्कुल उड़ गए, कोई क्या. मैं इतने फासले पर बैठा था, ये तरह हो कहना और वो कहना. मेरे ऊपर छत गिर गया था. मैं अकेला नहीं, तो बहुत सारी दुनिया थी.
एक्चुअल कैजुअलिटी फिगर को अभी कमेंट इसलिए नहीं करना चाहूँगा कि मैंने जैसे आपको बता दिया कि रावलपिंडी में हमारे पास जो 8 मरीज़ों में से 2 की डेथ हुई है. बाकी जो वहाँ से डेड बॉडीज़ रिकवर हो रही हैं, उसमें जो मेरी आखिरी इतलात जो मेरी 1122 के हमारे इंचार्ज हैं उनसे जो बात हुई थी, उस वक्त तक वहाँ से जो डेड बॉडीज़ रिकवर हुई थी वो 11 थी.
The banned outfit Lashkar-e-Jhangvi has claimed responsibility for the suicide attack on Khanzada. Police said Khanzada was under threat following the killing of LEG chief Malik Ishaq in July. Intelligence reports say there are at least 150 sleeper cells of the LEG in South Punjab in Pakistan. Khanzada has also received threats from Al-Qaeda and the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on now, in a new flare-up in border tensions, Pakistani troops resorted to heavy firing and mortar shelling at Indian posts and civilian areas in the past 2 days. The firings have left 6 civilians dead, including a Sarpanch in Poonch district. India summoned Pak High Commissioner Abdul Basit on Sunday and lodged a strong protest after 35 ceasefire violations in this month alone.
For nearly 24 hours since the Independence Day, Pakistani mortar shells and guns have targeted the Balakot region in Poonch. The outposts and the civilian areas have been on target in the heaviest firing from across the line of control in recent times. The toll, 6 dead and 10 injured, all of them local villagers. Among the dead was a 12-year-old boy and a 40-year-old woman. In another incident, 3 people were injured in Rajouri as well.
2 दिन से अब बहुत फायरिंग चल रहा है सर. हमारे 5 आदमी जो है वो अभी तक मर चुके हैं. उनका कोई दफनाने का स्कीम नहीं है. यहाँ पे कोई फैसिलिटी अवेलेबल नहीं है.
फायरिंग जो है पिछले कुछ दिनों से चल रही थी. रुक के फायरिंग होती थी, बट हैबिटेशंस पे फायरिंग नहीं होती थी. कल दिन को जो है वो हैबिटेशंस पे फायरिंग हुई. रात को भी कुछ थोड़ी फायरिंग हुई, मॉर्निंग में हुई.
The Pakistan Army has been resorting to unprovoked ceasefire violation in the Poonch sector and in the Mimbar Gali sector. The Indian Army is giving them a befitting reply. Adequate response is being given to all the forward posts of the Pakistan Army.
Sunday was the 8th consecutive day of firing by the Pakistani troops on Indian posts and civilian areas. Till Saturday, there have been 35 ceasefire violations only in the first 2 weeks of this month. Last month saw 19 more, in which 4 people were killed and 14 others were injured. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mufti Mohammad Saeed raised concerns over the ceasefire violations and loss of lives. He urged for immediate de-escalation of tension along the borders in Jammu and Kashmir. India summoned Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basit to lodge a strong protest, especially over the incidents in the past 2 days. Basit sought effective mechanism to stop violence.
Shri Anil Wadhwa, Secretary East in the Ministry, lodged a protest and conveyed our anger at the unprovoked firing by Pakistani troops since August 8, particularly with regard to the incidents of yesterday and today in Poonch. Secretary East conveyed that the Pakistan government needed to take necessary steps to ensure that the Pakistan military does not undermine peace and tranquility along the international boundary and the line of control.
We are concerned about ceasefire violations. Our side would like to have a more effective mechanism in place as to determine as to who indulges in these unprovoked firing.
Meanwhile, the villagers living near the LOC are keen to move out amid heavy firing. Schools and shops have been shut for the past few days since the firing escalated. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, let's take a look now at some events that are likely to make news during the course of the day in our segment, The Day Ahead. Polling in Rajasthan's 129 civic bodies are underway amid tight security at 4,300 booths. Results will be announced on August 20th. A total of 10,582 candidates are in the fray, with the ruling BJP and the opposition Congress fielding candidates in all seats. The Supreme Court will hear a plea by 2 private parties seeking to buy Sahara Group's 3 overseas hotels. The bench has agreed to hear the plea when it was mentioned before the court last week. Subroto Roy and 2 other directors of Sahara companies are in judicial custody since March 4, 2014 for failing to return investors' money. Senior leaders of the RJD and JDU are expected to meet their MLAs and party workers over work distribution and the seat tussle among members ahead of the Bihar Assembly polls. Even after the grand alliance between Nitish Kumar and Lalu Prasad Yadav's party, senior leader Raghuvansh Prasad Singh asserted that seat sharing was done in a hurry and it was disappointing. Both the JDU and the RJD distributed 100 seats to each while leaving 40 seats to the Congress. Moving on to some international news now. Villagers in Indonesia's Papua region have claimed that they have found the wreckage of the plane which went missing with 54 people aboard. According to reports, the villagers said that the plane crashed into a mountain. It is not known yet whether there were any survivors. Bad weather is believed to have been a possible reason for the crash. The plane lost contact with ATC after takeoff from Jaipura amid heavy rain, strong winds and fog. A search operation to locate the aircraft had to be suspended due to poor light. Indonesia has a patchy aviation safety record. In December, an Air Asia plane en route to Singapore crashed in the Java Sea during stormy weather, killing all 162 people on board.
Menurut informasi, pada malam hari ini pesawat Trigana Air yang hilang kontak sudah ditemukan di Camp 3 Distrik Okpape, Kabupaten Pegunungan Bintang.
Dan akan diteruskan besok sepagi mungkin. Basarnas juga akan ke sana malam ini bersama Direktur Jenderal Perhubungan Udara.
Here's a look now at the other international stories in our Pearl Wrap. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang visited victims of a major blast at the chemical warehouse in Tianjin last week. A series of explosions rocked the port city of Tianjin early on Wednesday, killing at least 112 people. Many are still missing, including 95 firefighters. Chinese military officials said that several hundred tons of toxic chemical sodium cyanide had been identified at 2 locations in the blast zone. An investigation is underway to figure out what triggered the massive explosions. Thousands took to the streets across Brazil calling for the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff. Voters accused her of failing to eliminate corruption and blamed her for the economy's worst slump in 25 years. Protesters took over Copacabana Beach in Rio and also demonstrated outside Congress in the capital, Brasilia. Rousseff is less than a year into her second term as president. Her support has dwindled to single digits in recent polls. The parliamentary panel in Iraq has asked its former Prime Minister Nouri Maliki to face trial over the fall of the northern city of Mosul to Islamic State. Now, over 30 other officials, including former Mosul governor, have also been blamed in the report. The move comes as the Iraqi government began a major campaign to combat corruption and mismanagement. Islamic State seized Mosul across North and West Iraq last year. At least 80 people were killed in airstrikes in Damascus in Syria by the government forces. Over 200 are reportedly injured. Syrian military officials said that the airstrikes were targeted at rebels' headquarters. The insurgent group had attacked government positions early on Saturday. Moving on to some sports news now. There was heartbreak for Saina Nehwal all over again as the badminton ace had to settle for the silver at the World Badminton Championship in Jakarta. Nehwal lost in straight games to her Spanish opponent and title holder Carolina Marin, 16-21, 19-21 in 59 minutes. The Indian champion found it tough to deal with her rival's energy and floundered when challenged on pace. Carolina capitalized on Saina's errors and some precisely placed baseline shots. It's the second successive loss for Saina in a major final. She lost to Marin in the All England Championships final earlier this year.
Saina lost the first set, and the second, Saina was leading till the end. But last 2 strokes, that girl was time and again asking for some relaxation. And ultimately, Saina made the mistakes and lost in 2 sets. But she has gone to the finals. It is a wonderful achievement. It is wonderful for India.
Well, it's time now for all the other sports news in our Sports Beat. Andy Murray clinched his 3rd Rogers Cup title after beating world number 1 Novak Djokovic in 3 sets. 3rd-seeded Murray edged out his Serbian counterpart 6-4, 4-6, 6-3 in just over 3 hours in Montreal to deny Djokovic his 4th crown. Manchester City laid a significant early marker in the Premier League title race after beating title holders Chelsea 3-0. Sergio Aguero's exquisite solo strike and late goals by Vincent Kompany and Fernandinho earned Manchester City victory over Chelsea in the first heavyweight showdown in the Premier League. Swiss teenager Belinda Bencic secured her 2nd career title by winning the Rogers Cup after Simona Halep retired hurt in the final. Bencic, who beat Serena Williams in the semi-finals, came through 7-6, 6-7, 3-0 in the finals. Bencic needed nearly 2 hours and 30 minutes on a sweltering centre court to see off a determined Halep and claim the biggest title of her young career, putting down a marker as a player to watch at the US Open. Zhao Yunli helped China to win both the mixed and women's doubles titles, while hosts Indonesia claimed the men's gold at the World Badminton Championships in Jakarta. Top seeds Zhang Nan and Zhao Yunli stormed to the third badminton mixed doubles world title with a comfortable victory over compatriots Liu Cheng and Bao Yixin. Indonesia's Mohammad Ahsan and Hendra Setiawan regained the men's doubles title they won in 2013 with a victory over China's Liu Xiaolong and Qi Jihan in the last match of the day. That's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.